Hello and welcome to the Suzuki S Cross, Suzuki's idea of the perfect SUV. And if I'm honest, it's probably not a car that most people think of when they think of SUVs. Think Suzuki and I think Swift Sport. SUV, I think most people, me included, think Nissan Qashqai, Peugeot 3008, not the S Cross. But is it a car that you should ignore entirely? No, I don't think it is. And that's because it's actually quite good value. Now before I go any further, make sure you like this video, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you visit newmotoring.com. There are three grades of S Cross. There's SZ4, SZT, and SZ5, so bottom, middle, top. This is the SZ5, so it's top of the range, and it's £24,795, which, yes, is quite a decent chunk of money, but for the equivalent Nissan Qashqai, you'd probably pay about £2,000 more. Sitting behind the wheel, it has got everything you'd need, really. It's got sat-nav, it's got DAB radio, it's got Bluetooth, it's got cruise control, it's got leather seats, it's got a system that will stop you from crashing into the car in front. Although granted, a few seconds ago it did just mistake signs at the side of the road for a car in front. It's a sign at the side of the road. I wouldn't have mentioned it, but for the fact that it's happened a few times now. But for the most part, yeah, it's got everything you can need. But it does feel a bit cheap in here. Some of the plastics in here are just a little bit scratchy, a little bit shiny. But then again, as I said, it's about £2,000 cheaper than a comparable Nissan Qashqai. So yes, it feels slightly cheaper, but if you want a more quality feel, if you want some of the materials to be a little bit better, then you will have to pay for it. On the outside, it's not exactly a pretty car, is it? I remember on this car's launch, someone from Suzuki said that they had asked their customers what they wanted from their next SUV, and they responded, and so Suzuki decided to do everything. Which is why I think it looks a little bit confused. From some angles it's aggressive, from some angles it's a little bit soft, and there's just a lot going on, really. Engines, there's a 1 litre turbocharged petrol, there's a 1.4 litre turbocharged petrol, and there's also a 1.6 litre turbo diesel, all of which you can either get with a manual or an automatic, and there's also the option of a four-wheel drive system. This is a 1.4 litre turbo petrol, and it's got a 6-speed manual gearbox and the four-wheel drive system. So 140 brake horsepower, 162 foot-pounds of torque, 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 10.2 seconds, and the top speed is 124 miles an hour, and it'll get 50 miles to the gallon. I think this is a good little engine, actually. There's no sudden burst of torque like you might expect from a turbocharged engine. Actually, it pulls very smoothly all the way from, well, 2,000 RPM up to almost the red line. It pulls to about 5,500, and the red line is 6,000. Let me give you a taste of the noise. I think it sounds pretty good too. Not a bad noise. I remember driving a Vitara S with this same engine. I remember thinking that that 4-cylinder brought a level of character to the car that just wouldn't be there if you had a turbocharged 3-cylinder, and I think it's the same here. As for the gearbox, as I said, 6-speed manual. Gear ratios are good, but it's just a little bit light, a little bit notchy. It's obstructive when you want to change gear quickly. What about the four-wheel drive system? Well, there's a little dial down here next to the handbrake that allows you to set up the car how you want it and set up the four-wheel drive system. So, turn it to the left and you'll be in a snow and mud mode. Turn it to the right and you'll be in a sport mode. And press a button in the middle and it will be in automatic. So it will work out what it thinks is best. Have I tested the four-wheel drive system to its limits? If I'm honest, no. There's been a little bit of rain, but I haven't taken it off-road, haven't driven on mud, haven't driven on snow, haven't done anything like that really. But have I found the four-wheel drive system useful? Actually, yes, I think I have. And that's because the traction control system has been intervening less. I've driven some similarly sized SUVs recently that are front-wheel drive, and as soon as you put your foot down on the accelerator, the traction control light starts flickering on and off. It's because it's struggling to get its power down. The system is panicking and trying to stop the wheels from spinning. Whereas in this, every single time I have put my foot down, regardless of the conditions, whether it's been wet or dry, I haven't seen that light. the traction control hasn't had to intervene, and I think that's because the four-wheel drive system just finds grip. You can always put the power down. Not that it's got a huge amount of power, but as I said, similarly sized front-wheel drive SUVs, sometimes they will struggle in a way that this hasn't. Suspension, well, I think it struggles to control its wheels sometimes. When you on a poor surface, go over a pothole or a bump or something, it feels like the wheels are able to move around quite a lot. That's not very reassuring. But in terms of stability, in terms of comfort, and in terms of grip, well, you've got the four-wheel drive system, so there is plenty of grip. It's very comfortable, and there is a little bit of roll, but there's not too much. The steering isn't particularly feelsome, and actually it's a little bit too light for my liking, but the car itself feels light. This car weighs 1,240 kilos, which for a car of this size, that's really not very much. And it's all the better for it. It's a trait that most Suzukis have, because most of them are lightweight. They're lighter than their competitors, and you can feel that. It feels light and nimble. It might not feel particularly plush in here, and the looks will definitely divide opinion. Some people really do not like the look of this car, but it's good to drive, and this is a top spec car for £24,000. And if you go without things like leather seats and the panoramic roof, you can still get this with a four-wheel drive system for £22,000. That is very good value for money. There's no denying that. It's just good value. Would you buy one? Do you love the way it looks? Or do you not like the way it looks? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to New Motoring, and visit newmotoring.com.